The voice that echoes through the centuries. He had wisdom, power, wealth, fame, everything many today consider success. And yet Solomon, the wisest king in history, summed it all up in one brutal phrase: everything is vanity, a chasing after the wind. How can someone who had it all say that nothing is enough? Because some truths do not change with time. And in this modern world, so full of noise, anxiety, and disconnection, the voice of Solomon sounds once again, not as religion, but as practical wisdom for a lost soul. Today, more than ever, we need that clarity that sees beyond the glitter. This is not an ancient message. It's a mirror for our current emptiness. The diagnosis: a soul without a north. We live in the era of freedom. You can say what you think, choose what you eat, change partners, reinvent yourself every year. But tell me honestly, are you free or just lost? Solomon said, "Where there is no vision, the people perish." And that's exactly what's happening to us. We have infinite options and no purpose. We live in a world that gave us wings, but forgot to teach us where to fly. We were filled with stimulation, but not meaning. Today you have access to everything: instant information, endless entertainment, ways to escape yourself disguised as productivity. And still, something inside you feels off. That emptiness that likes can't fill. That anxiety that returns when the screens go off. That confusion that can't be cured by cheap motivation. Do you know what it is? It's a soul without direction. It's the price of living outward without listening inward. Because it's not just about having freedom. It's about knowing what to do with it. A broken compass in the middle of the desert is not freedom. It's a sentence. Solomon didn't speak from moralism. He lived excess, abundance, pleasure. And from there he reached a brutal conclusion. All of that without wisdom is chasing the wind. Having it all and still feeling lost is not failure. It's a sign you need to stop. Listen, return to yourself. Because the soul doesn't feed on novelty. It feeds on direction. Silence as the first remedy. Even a fool, when he keeps silent, is considered wise. It's not just a proverb. It's Solomon's subtle warning. We live surrounded by noise. Empty words, quick opinions, digital shouting. We've gotten used to reacting before understanding, to speaking before feeling, to filling the void with any sound, except our own inner voice. And yet the soul does not shout, it whispers. That's why the first step is not to do more, it's to be silent. To quiet the world so you can hear yourself again. Solomon understood that silence is not absence, it is deep presence. It is where true wisdom is born, because the one who is silent is not necessarily empty. Sometimes they're processing, observing, awakening. Today we confuse speaking with knowing, and giving opinions with thinking. But a saturated mind doesn't need more content, it needs space. When was the last time you were alone with yourself, without background noise? No music, no notifications, no screens. When did you last let your mind breathe? Silence is uncomfortable at first, because it brings us face to face with what we've avoided, with what's unresolved, with the questions we don't want to answer. But it's also where clarity is born. You don't need all the answers today. You just need to give yourself permission to hear the one already living inside you, but which cannot speak while everything around you is shouting. Silence is not surrender. It is preparing the ground for wiser decisions. It is the brave act of someone who knows that noise doesn't bring meaning. It only distracts from it. Self-mastery, the strength that makes no noise. We live in a culture that idolizes control. Controlling outcomes, controlling people, controlling the image we project. But Solomon, who knew the power of ruling kingdoms, taught something deeper. Better is the one who is slow to anger than the mighty, and he who rules his spirit than one who takes a city. True power is not external. It is invisible, silent, and begins within. It is called self-mastery. Today we react to everything. A message, a criticism, a glance. We live at the mercy of impulses that govern us more than we think. And we confuse reactivity with character. But there is no wisdom in exploding, nor strength in forcing your will. Patience is not passivity. It is the mastery of choosing when and how to act. Self-mastery is not about repressing what you feel, but about transforming it into something that won't destroy you or others. It's feeling the rage, but not turning it into harm. It's recognizing desire without becoming its slave. Solomon didn't speak from idealistic assumptions. He spoke from experience. He knew what it was to give in to impulse and pay the price. That's why he insisted on the virtue of governing oneself. Because a man who does not rule his soul is like a city without walls, exposed, fragile, at the mercy of every wind. Self-mastery is pause. It is awareness. It is giving yourself a few seconds to ask, will what I'm about to say build or destroy? Is this reaction coming from fear or from clarity? It's not easy, but every time you choose calm over chaos, you become stronger and freer. Because the one who conquers the world can still lose himself, but the one who conquers himself finds himself. Inner direction, the invisible north. We live running to arrive, to achieve, to impress. But where to? Solomon, after conquering everything a man could desire, left us a simple but brutal warning. There is a way that seems right to a man, but its end is the way of death. It's not about movement, it's about meaningful movement. Because the soul, like the body, needs nourishment. And that nourishment is called direction. Today we have more options than ever, but less clarity, more freedom, and more confusion. Because when everything seems possible, choosing becomes a burden, not a blessing. That's where wisdom comes in. Not as a set of rules, but as an inner compass. A voice that doesn't shout, but guides. That promises no shortcuts, but shows the path. A direction that may not be the fastest, but is the truest. Inner direction is not found on Google, nor on social media, nor in comparisons. It is discovered in silence, in introspection. In that moment when you stop running outward and start listening inward. Solomon didn't speak of maps, he spoke of discernment, of knowing when to move forward, when to wait, when to let go, of having the courage to say no to the shiny, to say yes to the true. A life without direction is not freedom, it is dispersion. And a mind without purpose is fertile ground for anxiety. So before you keep searching, ask yourself, which part of me is leading me? Is it fear, urgency, the need for approval, or something deeper? Something that doesn't run, but doesn't stop. Something that doesn't impress, but doesn't fail. That is the voice Solomon wanted to awaken in you. Your invisible north, the one not everyone sees, but only that one leads you to yourself. Emptiness is not failure. It's a calling. Feeling empty hurts, because it feels like something went wrong, because you have everything and still, you feel something essential is missing. But what if that emptiness isn't a mistake? What if it's a signal? Solomon understood this firsthand. He tasted all pleasures, accumulated glory, wealth, knowledge, and in the end he said everything is vanity, a chasing after the wind. Not because he hated life, but because he realized that without purpose, everything falls apart from within. Emptiness is not always a pit. Sometimes it's a door, a fertile space though uncomfortable, where a new way of living can take root, not based on external demands, but on an honest connection with who you are and what no longer fits. Pain is not weakness, it is a sign of life, that your soul is still trying to speak, even if you've learned to silence it with routines, distractions, appearances. Sometimes the soul screams as anxiety, other times as deep fatigue, but it always carries the same message. Come back to yourself. You are not broken, you are in transition. And that emptiness that today feels like an abyss can become the cradle of transformation. But to do that, you must listen. You must stop running and start being. Being with yourself, with your questions, with your truth. Solomon didn't come to give easy answers. He came to remind you that wisdom begins when you dare to look within, even if you don't know what you'll find. Because there is no awakening without discomfort, and no transformation without first going through the silence of the void. That pain you feel is not your end, it is your beginning. A wisdom that awakens may. What we need most today is not a new goal, but a new way to look at life. Because you've already tried achievements, relationships, distractions. And if something still feels missing, it's because your soul doesn't want more stimulation. It wants direction. It wants purpose. It wants peace. And for that you don't need external answers. Only silence, clarity, and wisdom. That is what Solomon offers here. Not magic formulas, but deep truths that invite you to live with meaning. If this message resonated with you, if something inside you felt calm, clarity, or simply, this is what I needed, then this channel is your place. Here we talk about what is not always said, about what hurts, but also what can awaken. Subscribe to Menti Antigua, not to follow a channel, but to follow a direction. One that is not on social media, but lives within you. Because as Solomon once said, wisdom is the principal thing, therefore get wisdom. And with all your possessions, get understanding. Thank you for being here. We'll see you in the next message.